Benneedict, Mathurin, and Andrew Nembhard are headed to All-Star Weekend. I'll talk about that. Plus, Daniel Theis and Tyrese Haliburton possibly back tonight against the Lakers. And speaking of the Lakers, Alex Regla is going to join us to preview the action, talk about LeBron's season, and of course, we'll discuss team building and what the Pacers can learn from the Lakers. All coming today on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in to another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the Indiana Pacers. As always, my name's Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today we're diving into the latest and greatest in Pacerland. Big news in Pacerland, first and foremost, on the Tyrese Haliburton injury front. Could be playing tonight against the Lakers, as could Daniel Theis, the big man who has not played all season for this Pacers team. Plus, Benneedict, Mathurin, and Andrew Nembhard headed to All-Star Weekend. We'll talk about that. And then Alex Regla will join us from Silver Screen and Roll. We're going to talk all about the Lakers ahead of Pacers-Lakers tonight. LeBron season, Pacers-Lakers from earlier this year with the Nembhard buzzer beater, and team building, all the usual stuff we discuss with people who cover other teams. We start with injury update news, though, and it's all been good for the Pacers so far this week. Their injury report could be as clean as ever on Thursday against the Lakers. Kendall Brown and Trevelyan Queen are questionable because of their two-way deal. Tyrese Haliburton's questionable with his elbow injury. And Daniel Theis is questionable for the first time all season, not out with that knee, that right knee soreness, surgery, whatever, and could be available for the first time. If it's possible that all 17 Pacers players are healthy enough to play tonight against the Lakers, and they'll have to pick their inactives based on just who's not going to play, which is crazy given how their season, especially the last month, has gone. Actually, their season hasn't been that bad besides Theis, but really given how their last month has gone, that's been the story at practice all week. Is the Pacers were fortunate to have this 3-day gap to kind of get everybody up to speed and healthy and on the same page. They got to do their most intense and fullest practice in a long time on Tuesday. Tyrese was back out there for that Tuesday practice, and Theis was doing the most he's ever done. A big part of that practice being intense is it allowed the Pacers to evaluate how Haliburton and Theis, who were dealing with knee injuries and an elbow for Haliburton, to see how they responded to something like that, right? If you can't respond to a hard practice, you definitely can't play in a game. It went well for both of them. Carlisle saying it's possible they could play on Tuesday. They both said it was a good practice for them. And Haliburton said, hopefully aiming to play Thursday. That's my goal. And then today, Rick Carlisle said that barring something unexpected on that front, the expectation is that Haliburton will be able to play. He expects Haliburton to be able to play barring a setback, which is great news. And then Theis, similar story that he thinks he could be able to go, although he was joking that, like, with how fast the Pacers play at his age and his conditioning level, he'll be winded after like 5 minutes. But the knee soreness could be dissipated enough that he would be able to actually get out there. He said no pain, no issues right now on Tuesday. And so assuming that he responds well from Wednesday to Thursday, Pacers could have everybody available. Obviously, having Haliburton back will elevate everybody on the team, right? That's been evident with him out, is that not only does he add his own 20 and 10, but his ability to shoot it, set everybody else up, set the motion and speed of the game, makes everybody else, literally everybody else that he plays with, better. Everybody shoots better when he's out there. The team's offense is significantly better when he's out there. There's a reason that they just went 1-9 between the Knicks game and now, because he's an extremely important player. I don't know if he'll be the Tyrese Haliburton that he was before the injury right away, but having him back is obviously better. And with Theis, I don't expect that he'll be in the rotation, but having more depth is preferable to not. And if it's a blowout, he could perhaps make his debut for the blue and gold. Looking forward to seeing what, if anything, the Pacers can get from those guys. And the back-to-back, 3 home games in a row, I don't know what they'll be able to do in that situation, but having them back again is preferable to not. And so on the right track there for the Pacers to potentially turn things around after a really crappy stretch. Speaking of good news, though, the first All-Star event announcement became official. The Rising Stars game. I think we know all the contest participants, but it hasn't been officially announced. Either way, the first officially announced event, the Rising Stars game, where they put, the NBA calls it the brightest young talents in the league. The NBA's definition is the most exciting first and second year players. It's the rookie sophomore game. They added a G League element to it this year. Really cool event to just like see all the best young dudes in the league all together. Chris Duarte was invited last year and then got hurt and couldn't play, although he still showed up and waved, which was cool. And then Tyrese Haliburton, of course, did very well in the event. I think his team won. He got a trophy. I forget exactly what for. I honestly can't remember a lot of the All-Star stuff. Either way, those two guys went last year, and the Pacers get 2 more invites this year because Benneedict Mathurin, no surprise there, one of the best rookies in the league. He's going. He's in the Rising Stars event. And Andrew Nembhard on the closer to the fence or the line. He is on the rookie team, Andrew Nembhard, who started 34 times for the Pacers. Maybe he shouldn't be on the line, but he is also going. Both of the young Canadian Pacers on their way to Utah for All-Star Weekend. Awesome for them and the Pacers. It's a good experience, right? Mathurin said it'll be great in my first year in the league. My goal is to be an All-Star one day, so being invited out there will give him the chance to just see what it's like to be out there, see all the other players, be a part of the spectacle that is NBA All-Star Weekend. The rookie sophomore games, if you'll recall their new style last year, they have like a G League team and then 3 other teams drafted from the pools of rookies and sophomores, and they play to a target score, and it's like a little tournament thing. So maybe they'll be on the same team. Maybe they'll be in the finals or something. I don't know, but it's cool that they both get to go, right? They get to be a part of that class that's on your resume forever, and meaningful stuff to put you on the map, to market your team, your brand, whatever, and of course to network with other players to the extent that that's actually something that matters. So obviously cool that they both get to go. We'll see about the rest of All-Star Weekend. Tonight would be the day for All-Star reserves to be announced for Tyrese Haliburton's case, for example. Again, I still think he should be in it. I don't think he's on the line. I think he's clearly above the line, but I guess there's a chance he doesn't. But I would say 80% confidence that Tyrese Haliburton will be an All-Star. We'll see. Looking forward to that determination. I haven't asked Buddy Hield, but I would be curious to know if he, as the league leader in made threes, will be in the three-point contest. And if he is, or if the Pacers have someone in the skills contest not named Buddy Hield, there's a chance the Pacers could have somebody all 3 nights of All-Star Weekend. Friday night, the rookie-sophomore stuff. Saturday night, the skills challenge, dunk contest, three-point contest. And then Sunday, the All-Star game itself. It's possible that that's on the table for the Pacers. Those announcements all, again, coming in coming days. And there's a lot coming for the Pacers in coming days, between potentially hearing if Haliburton or Hield or even someone else is headed to All-Star Weekend for various events. And the Kings are in town with Sabonis on Friday. They have key games coming up against big opponents. There's a lot of fun coming in Pacerland, especially if Tyrese Haliburton can return. Despite their crappy stretch, still an awesome, fun team to watch. And we'll, of course, have it all for you here on the Locked On Pacers podcast, as well as coverage of any trade stuff or extension stuff that happens in the interim. But let's talk about their game tonight. Los Angeles Lakers in town. Maybe their most fun game of the season to date was against the Lakers. The Andrew Nembhard buzzer beater over LeBron James, the rookie, his great stretch where he was great against the Warriors 1 week later. Around 17 in the fourth quarter in LA, and they get it done against LeBron. That game was an absolute hoot. I just completely loved it. We get a chance to see it again. Unfortunately, no records on the line unless LeBron scores like 90 points. So that part of allure of the game is gone. But still, Alex Regla from Silver Screen and Roll and I talk Pacers-Lakers, where both teams could theoretically get an advantage, team building, all sorts of fun stuff, and how it applies. The team building things the Lakers do well could apply to the Pacers. You won't want to miss that conversation. Before Alex joins us, though, let me talk to you guys about FanDuel. This year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sportsbook in America. It's FanDuel. If you're new to FanDuel, then it's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders, my fantasy stud this year. One of the FanDuel Sportsbook is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/LockedOn to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook of the NFL. Now let's talk Pacers-Lakers. We are now joined by Alex Regla from Silver Screen and Roll, one of the greatest places for Lakers coverage on the internet. Jacob Rude, who does Locked On Hoosiers, is there, which also makes it fantastic. Here to talk some Pacers Lakers in front of a fun game tonight. Lakers' only trip to Indy of the season. Man, I was weird this season, Alex, because at first I thought, oh, there's no way LeBron's going to be able to score enough to get the record by early February. So I didn't track it at all. And then he was scoring enough. So early in January, I started to really look at it. And then in the middle, I thought, oh my God, he could break the record at Indy. And now it's definitely not happening. He's still, I think 89 is the number now, right? Points away from passing Kareem. So that's a bummer. But the Lakers still have the allure of the purple and gold. I'm looking forward to seeing them. What's it been like covering and observing this team this year with all these accolades being broken and a talented team? And yet here they are, 12th in the West, 13th in the West, not having the year anybody thought.
You underestimate LeBron. There's no chance he scores 89 tomorrow or tonight. Yeah, no, it's been a crazy year. Like you said, there's been so many accolades, like not just LeBron. I think Russ just like joined the top 10 in assists ever. And LeBron, like you said, the scoring record has been a huge thing this year. And unfortunately, like the season's not gone the way the Lakers or their fans would have hoped, but things are maybe turning around. Like they're finally a bit healthy. LeBron's back, AD's back. So it's time to focus on like the on-court stuff. Obviously, the big historical stuff's important and all that stuff. But yeah, like every game at this point really matters for the Lakers.
They are above 500 since their whatever it was 1-7 start, right? Basically, they've been
2-10.
Pretty. Yeah, they were awful early in the year. Beyond the one that everybody kind of knows, where they moved Westbrook to the bench, what do you feel like this team has done better since then that's made them like an actually they can win every night kind of team?
Yeah, so those first 14 games, like they were missing Dennis Schroeder, Thomas Bryant. Both those guys missed they had the same exact injury, like a thumb injury, both out the same number of games, both rehab together. They did like thumb war to rehab together and stuff like that. So
is that true? They
yeah, like that was part of the rehab process. They were just
that's awesome
wars and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. If you basically since then with the AD injury, both those guys have been starters. So essentially they were out 2 starters to start the first 14 games. Guys slowly started to kind of get comfortable in their roles. Like you said, Westbrook went to the bench and guys just started to slot into more natural positions and things like that. And they mainly, you know what, AD got hurt and that was a big thing. We thought maybe he'd be out for the whole year. It was totally uncertain what was going to happen there, but the Lakers basically were 500 without him. And that was huge for them. And now that he's back, but yeah, the thing is with like the Lakers is there are obviously some roster issues. But beyond that, they play hard every night. And that's something that last season was not the case. And we've seen that like recently, like that comeback win against Memphis, games where they're down 15, 20 points. Like in Brooklyn the other night, they were down, I think 20 and they had a 7-point lead, like pretty quickly after that. Like they battle every night, even though they're undermanned, like almost always missing at least 1 or 2 guys. But yeah, this team plays really hard, and just there's some roster limitations that kind of limit what they can do.
Are you trying to tell me that outside shooting is like important in the NBA?
Yeah, I guess this is a good case study with the Lakers, right?
Yeah, that matches what. Look, I don't watch every Lakers game, but I do watch them more than most non-Pacers teams because one, they are lucky to be on the West Coast, so they're still playing when the Pacers are done. But they have LeBron James, who is must-watch TV most of the time, and look, he also has just been like records aside, he's been really good this season, better than last year. I think I'll let you speak to that in a second. But I mean, how much of surviving without Davis and being a capable team after starting 2-10 is, oh my God, LeBron is averaging 30 points at age 38. And how good has he been, if you can even summarize it?
He's been huge. And like, obviously we know how good he is and stuff like that. But when AD went down and they really needed LeBron to kind of just do everything, he did. Like he put the team on his back, and he's been incredible. Yeah, in terms of like almost everything, like his jumper is one thing that again isn't where it was or has been. I think he's like 31% from three this year, something like that. And the jumper just comes and goes and stuff like that. And he's not getting to the line as much as he used to. And that's a big talking point lately. But
Huh?
I don't know if you heard about it, but yeah, but he's been incredible. And I think the team easily could have folded. They could have easily just punted the season after AD got hurt. If they would have like lost 4 or 5 games, that's it. That's the year. But they kind of kept it afloat. And guys like LeBron, obviously, but also guys like Thomas Bryant were huge. Dennis, Pat Bev has been playing a lot better after his slow start. Like they've been getting contributions from a ton of different guys. And obviously LeBron has spearheaded it.
Love seeing Thomas Bryant do well. Indiana Hoosier legend, Thomas Bryant, doing very well. He was his last year at IU was my freshman year in school. So I'm always going to be a big fan of his at the NBA level. And he's playing well. The fact that he can kind of stretch a little bit is key for the Lakers, right? They don't have that from any of their other bigs. Look, I like watching the Lakers. They are a better team than their record suggests because they're slow start. They also are still 24-28 despite all that. What do they not handle well in terms of style or a player archetype? And to that end, do the Pacers, who will presumably, it sounds like, have Tyrese Haliburton back, have any of those types of players, or can they play that style?
Yeah, so basically bigger wings, right? That's something that's kind of haunted the Lakers the last 2 seasons. So a team like the Clippers specifically, like, always kicks the Lakers' butts just because they have no one to guard that team. And yeah, so basically those types of wings and stuff, but also kind of big guards, right? Like guards who can kind of initiate the offense, because the Lakers backcourt, they battle, right? Defensively, Dennis is a really good point of attack defender. He'll pick you up full court. Pat Bev is obviously Pat Bev, like he'll get under your skin and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they're really small, right? Both 6'2", 6'3", and any kind of opposing guard with any size or wing, that just has burned the Lakers this year.
That is what got the Pacers escaping from LA earlier this season, is that Haliburton and Nembhard are tall, right, at their position. Yeah. So even though several things they can't or can do well in a given game, they could cut up the defense. And that's why the Pacers all of a sudden in one quarter can score a bajillion points and erase a 17-point lead. God, that was even in retrospect,
crazy game.
I can't believe that happened. How well do you remember? Like, did you
With
go?
This Lakers team, I can believe it.
You can believe that a second-round pick hit a buzzer beater over LeBron?
Yes. The way this year's gone, I'll believe anything at this point.
Yeah, I mean, when Miles missed the 3 with, I forget, 7 seconds left or whatever it was, I thought that was it. You know, like 17 points in one quarter just doesn't happen. I thought it was over.
That's the thing too with this Laker team. Beyond the player archetype that kind of burns them, just them in the clutch is something they've struggled so mightily with. I thought last night was going to be another case of that. They sneaked by against New York after controlling most of that game, I would say, and they just couldn't end it in regulation, and they kind of sweep by in overtime. But like we saw in that big national broadcast game against Boston, and so many times this year, I have to go back and actually look how many games they've lost when they've had the lead. I don't know, just like a minute or 2 left, because I feel like it's at least got to be like 5-7 losses.
Yeah, the part of the Pacers record being surprising in what it is they have been really good in the clutch this year. They struggled for a little bit to start the year, but once Tyrese Haliburton activated, I'm really good. That phase of his season, they went on a tear, and they had, I think through whenever I wrote the story, so January 10th-ish, they had the best clutch record in the league, which is like the Pacers. They have, as the Lakers know very well, thrive in those circumstances. So I think that the circumstances in this game will make it an uphill battle for the Pacers, not only because the Lakers are playing better and it seems like their dudes are going to play and they have a day off between games, but also Haliburton has been out for 10 games now. They've won once since he got hurt, and who knows what he'll be able to do. Like, it sounds like he's going to play. I don't know for sure, but an elbow injury it's his non-shooting arm, but where he says like lengthening it all the way is like the most hard part to do. He didn't say painful, but I'd imagine that's what he means. You can't. It's hard to play very well like that, even though he doesn't go left that much. I don't know if he can just come in and be like, "Yep, all right, pushing the pace, 20-10, let's do this, carve out the Lakers. Now, the Lakers get everybody's best punch every night, but I don't think the Pacers' best punch, given their recent run of play and Haliburton missing time, is enough to beat the Lakers the way they're playing right now. But I'll be curious, and I want to know if you agree with that assessment.
I mean, I definitely hope so. I definitely hope that's the case for the Lakers' sake. Like we mentioned, the Western Conference is just ridiculous in terms of the standings. And literally every game feels like a must-win at this point for the Lakers, especially against a team like Indiana, like who's obviously outperformed expectations. Obviously, can beat the Lakers. They've beat the Lakers, but these are types of games the Lakers really need to win. Last I checked, I think AD is playing. Pat Bev is playing. LeBron, I would assume does, but we'll see. Regardless, this is a game they need to win. And yeah, I mean, the only thing on the Lakers side just to look out for going into the game, they played a big starting lineup for the first time against the Knicks. So Rui Hachimura was in, AD was in, LeBron was in, Troy Brown Jr. was in. They've historically, or not historically, but just this season have gone really small. And the other night we saw a 4-guard lineup from Darvin Ham.
Wow.
And Rui Hachimura at center.
I see on the internet that Lakers fans do not like those lineups.
No, not like those lineups. So that's just one thing to keep an eye out for, I guess, for Pacers fans, if how big the Lakers play versus how small, because usually when they go small, that's when they get burned.
Yeah, going big will do well for the Lakers. I think that is what the Pacers have really struggled against this year, and they try to go big sometimes, but they just haven't got enough consistency or growth from their young Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith types to hang with those bigger teams. One more break here, guys, so I can talk to you about the lovely folks over at PrizePicks. Simple concept. Tonight, you think Luka Doncic will score more or less than 30.5 points? Is Kevin Durant going to have more or less than 6.5 assists? Will Steph Curry make more or less than 4.5 threes? That is PrizePicks. You pick 2 to 6 players, and if they'll score more or less in their PrizePicks projection for a bunch of stats, you can up to 25 times your money on any entry. And what I love about it, it's not you versus another person or a bunch of other people. It's you versus PrizePicks projections. They offer projections on any sport you watch, NBA included. And then you can make your entries on there in 60 seconds or less. It's super easy. It's safe. It's got fast withdrawals, and it's currently operational in over 30 states as well as Canada. Download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up today and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. You deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter the promo code LOCKEDON at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100 at PrizePicks. Daily fantasy made easy. I would like to thank everyone for making Locked On Pacers their first listen today and every single day. Check out the Kamenetsky brothers on Locked On Lakers after this to get their side of the story and hear what's going on in La La Land. A season with so many stories to tell. Alex, I prepped you for this because you have probably the most unique team to discuss in this context. But I like to talk about team building and how other teams were built and how the Pacers could, in theory, copy from that. You know, Denver, they figured out their identity early with Jokic and slowly acquired players who fit that identity. The Grizzlies' unrepeatable strategy of draft perfectly for forever, but getting a lot of picks, taking on bad salary for a long time, worked very well for them. You know, every team does some little thing better or worse than others. The Miami Heat could sign you and I, and we'd become, you know, capable 11th men in the league. So I like to see if there's anything every team does that the Pacers could emulate. The Lakers are a little trickier because they can be under 500 for a few years and then just snap up LeBron James in free agency. But sans the big market stuff, to the extent that that is or isn't an advantage. What do you feel like the Lakers have done well in the team building? They did just win a championship, but not just because of LeBron. Mm-hmm. What do you think they do well in team building or poorly? And is it emulatable by other teams?
Yeah, I think definitely the scouting department has got to be
very good.
Their shining light. Like across the league, they in terms of keeping those guys, no, they're not very good at keeping the guys they draft. But the actual drafting process, you can look at basically any team, and there's probably one Laker draftee on that team doing well. And yeah, the scouting department's been incredible. From not even just guys in the draft, but undrafted guys like Austin Reeves has been a critical player on this team. A guy like Alex Caruso, obviously the most recent example before then. Another undrafted guy. Like, they find gem after gem. Max Christie, the most recent example this past draft, is a rotation guy. immediately. A great 3-and-D kind of prospect. So the scouting department's been incredible, and they've kind of filled in the gaps. When you have guys like LeBron, AD, and Westbrook taking up so much of the cap, you need those kind of those gems and those guys who can outperform their contracts. So the scouting has been great, and I think they've hit on a lot of like minimum contract guys, like Thomas Bryant we talked about earlier.
Yep.
A minimum signing is obviously exceeded that. Like he's putting up career numbers, really, and obviously he has flaws and stuff like that, but he does enough to outperform what he's doing, like on the floor. Troy Brown Jr., another guy, like up and down the roster, there's like 80% minimum contracts. So they really need to hit on those guys. And for the most part, I think they have.
Yeah, the drafting thing is what I always, with the Lakers, I don't get why they're not talked about more highly in that department. Like they literally could not have made the AD trade had they not drafted well for like 4 years, really, right?
Yeah.
Lonzo, Randall, Ingram, and I guess they kept Kuzma, but like all those guys, if any one of them isn't promising or talented, you don't get Anthony Davis. Like your offer's not the best. The Celtics beat you. Per the reporting, I guess I don't know what the real offers are myself, but everybody gets what I'm saying. Yeah, they're pretty good at that stuff, especially recently with Christie in the second round. Even Svi Mikhailuk was good.
Sure.
He was playing. They drafted Zubac, of course. I forget every once in a while that I Nance was a Laker for like a hot second. Yeah. They do a good job with that stuff. It's just a shame that I don't know what to call it. The allure of more immediate results gets in the way of it having long-term impact.
Yeah, and they've kind of when they have drafted these guys, their contract negotiations after have not been the greatest. They kind of don't do the typical second round contract extensions, and those guys hit restricted free agency and they just kind of leave for nothing. Like we saw that with Julius Randle, another Laker they just played against. He walked for nothing. It was a lottery pick. Like a lot of stuff like that where they're not recouping a lot of value for those guys. Obviously the AD trade being the exception of it, but yeah, like in terms of like prospect identification, targeting the right guys, like they've really hit on almost everyone. Like I can't remember the last guy where I could be like, oh yeah, that didn't work.
That's a good question. I have the draft history in front of me.
So late, like
yeah.
If they get an undrafted guy,
does Anthony Brown count as a high enough pick to?
I guess Anthony Brown's the guy.
That's like almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird to think that 2015 is almost a decade ago?
Oh, we were so high on Anthony Brown too. We love that guy.
Drafting well is an interesting thing for other teams to emulate because I do think there's like some ways you can draft better, obviously, right? Because some teams are good at it and some teams are bad at it. But I don't like it. It's not like I can't explain this. Like I don't think if to use the Grizzlies or Lakers, whatever, like if a different team hired every member of that team's draft department, like would they do just as well in a different ecosystem? That's one of the harder ones to know because it's impossible for that to ever actually happen. But like guys get hired to other teams and then the department's different. And like, I can never quite figure out what makes an organization or a team do so well, but there's clearly something to it because some teams are better at it.
That's a great question. Like if we were just to swap scouting departments, like the Lakers and the Pacers, I don't know how successful that would work out. Like,
right. Because they have different bosses and that boss has a different boss who pays for everything that happens everywhere. Right. Like how much there's so much to it, but we'll never be able to know that. You know what I mean? That will never, that's not a thing that will happen, but it's always interesting to think about, like you always hear about teams like we're investing more in scouting, like an external firm that you look at whatever they have or whatever it is. But I'm always curious what it could take for a team that the Pacers, to be clear, have done very well in the last, since Duarte included, since then have done very well. Basically every pick since 2020 they've made has been good. But like what it takes to really improve your team's scouting. Like I don't know if that, it's emulatable to some extent, obviously, but I don't know if you can just be like, let's draft better now. Like you can't just flip a switch and do it, or every team would do it. Yeah. And I guess also the development system, right? Once those guys are drafted, how much, that is very important,
how much time they're investing in those guys, like, which is weird because the Lakers have LeBron and AD. You wouldn't think this is the type of team where those young guys can play. But like we said, Max Christie, he's a rotation guy now. Reeves was a rotation guy last year. Now he's legit starter. So it's funny how these things work out. And again, that is part of the scouts and targeting the right guys and targeting, I guess, the right guys with the right skill sets right next to your cornerstones. And I think that's been a big thing for the Lakers. They're just targeting guys who fit well next to LeBron and AD, and that's worked.
The minimum salary thing. I don't want to say I'm saying big market bias or LeBron teammate bias, but like, do you think Thomas Bryant could only have gotten a minimum, for example, or do you think he took it because of the team he signed for? Like the most extreme example is like DeMar DeRozan's not taking the taxpayer mid-level exception from any other team, right?
Sure.
Like, so to the like, yes, I do think the Lakers have gotten good players on cheap deals. Like, I'm not saying that they haven't or that they aren't deserving of those guys. Do you think it's emulatable by non-LA teams?
I think it depends on the types of players you have on the current roster. Like, obviously, a guy like Thomas Bryant, for example, he's rehabbing that injury he had.
True.
He wanted to go to a place where, one, he could play, number one. Two, he has the guys around him to make him look good. If you have a guy like LeBron, you're going to get a lot of dunks. A guy like Westbrook, who, we talk about, he's very polarizing, but the one thing he does do is he feeds his big guys. So if you have LeBron and Westbrook, and then you have all the attention on AD, for example, you're going to get a lot of good looks. You're going to get your numbers pretty inflated, which Thomas Bryant's numbers are pretty ridiculous this year in terms of like efficiency. Like, his defense is not good, but his like counting stats are great. Like, if you just look at his box scores, like, yeah, he's awesome. He's going to get paid probably this summer because of it. So I think that's a big part. Like, you look at the Pacers, like Tyrese, right? Like, I would want to go play there if I'm a big guy, or if I'm like rehabbing an injury like a Thomas Bryant. Like, I think that guy can get me open looks. So obviously it's a benefit to play in Los Angeles. You're going to get more eyes on you, like a TNT game. Maybe Thomas Bryant isn't getting seen by a national audience if he's at, I don't know, Charlotte or something, right? So it's just smart on their end.
It is. It is. I don't think big market bias is like a bad thing. It's actually good. Like, there's a reason these teams are popular, but it's not emulatable as much. But Haliburton is as close as the Pacers can get, right? Like, DeAndre Ayton chose them over every other option on the table. Miles Turner chose the Pacers this week, right? And Kevin Pritchard even said, like, I asked the number one reason, right, that you think this Turner extension made sense. He said, I saw something with him and Tyrese that was special, right? Like, that's a huge deal. And I think especially if he gets named an all-star, which the day this is coming out for is today, potentially, that also like adds to the resume and the fire and the flair. Like, if he gets Miles Turner paid, and then Aaron Nesmith gets whatever he gets next 2 summers from now, all these guys, all of a sudden guys go, oh, not only can I have a lot of fun and touch the ball and run really fast and be involved, I can also make my career more fruitful for me. That sounds very nice. So yeah, I think he will have an influence on that the same way the Lakers do. I do think the Lakers are good at a lot of team building stuff, but it just so happens that everything they're not good at, they're like atrocious at. Like, there's no like medium thing, if that makes sense. And that's why they are where they are. Do you agree with that, or is that too extreme?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously some limitations and kind of oversights on some things in the front office. A lot of Lakers Twitter, a lot of Laker fans would kind of actually want the scouting department to kind of leak more into that front office and have more of a say in terms of who they target in trades and free agent signings, and not just kind of be limited to who they draft because of how successful they've been. And there does seem kind of be a little disconnect between that department and what's going on in the front office. And to be clear, the front office is hit on a lot of signings too. Like, they are the ones who signed Thomas Bryant, for example. Like, they've hit on a lot of things, like that Rui Hachimura trade recently. Like, I think that was a big trade, even if you're not a huge Rui fan. I think for what they got, what they gave up to get him, I think
great value.
So like they are capable, like they are good at certain things, but since LeBron and AD have got there's just this trend of every year they have to start over. There's no every year there's at least 6 to 7 new players on the roster. And when you're doing that year to year, it's really hard to build any kind of cohesion. And when you add on injuries to that, it's so hard to kind of play catch up mode during the season.
Who needs cohesion? You can see Lance Stevenson play with LeBron and AD, right? That's what it's all about. That was the most fun for me team.
A random team that was. I forgot about that team. I think Michael Beasley was on that team also.
Rondo. Oh,
Rondo.
God. How did those players all end up on the same team? Ask Rob Pelinka, because I sure as heck don't know. This game will be fun. I'm looking forward to it, despite the fact that LeBron broke into fourth and assist in the last game, so he won't do that against Mark Jackson's team and can't get the points thing. Right in the middle, of course, he will come to Indy, but it'll still be fun to watch him in the Lakers. Alex, thank you very much for the time. Where can people follow you and your lovely coverage of the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yeah, most of my work is at Silver Screen and Roll, and then on Twitter at Alex M. Regla. But yeah, thank you for having me on.
Highly recommended. There's a lot of competition for content in the Lakers space, and Alex rises above. A lot of people at SSR do. You guys do a great job. You guys cover like the silly stuff too, especially when Harrison was there. I really appreciate that. A lot of people don't cover the silly and interesting and fun parts of the game as well. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, talking about whatever happens in this game. If LeBron scores 90 points, I'm sure I will do a podcast seconds after the game ends. And Domantas Sabonis back in Indy for the first time on Friday. We'll, of course, be breaking all that down. Thank you all a ton for listening. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.